Hey guys, did you know that I have a Patreon where you can support me plus get awesome rewards and lots of exclusive videos just for patrons? Or if you're thinking, but Julian, I want to get more bang for my buck, then you can head on over to my Redbubble, where you will find all kinds of interesting designs with new ones appearing regularly. Check this one out. And now, enjoy the video you're about to watch. Hey everyone, it's me, Julian Greystoke. Welcome to nighttime. I apologize, it's just how it has to be. But Jane is here, you just can't see him, but he is here. Today I'm wearing my salt shirt, which you all know means that I am going to take the piss out of a poor innocent book that never did anything to me. But this book though, I almost am not going to take the piss out of it because it is so bonkers. This book was wild, and I may very well be spoiling it because I don't know if anybody should actually go out and read this book, but it was wild. Let's talk about the premise. I'm just gonna read it to you from Goodreads because so much happened I'm not even sure I completely remember. Wiley hasn't heard from Cassie in over a week. First of all, the main character's name is Wiley. Can we just acknowledge that. Wiley hasn't heard from Cassie in over a week, not since their last fight. But it doesn't matter. Cassie's in trouble. So Wiley decides to do what she has done so many times before and save her best friend from herself. This time it's different though. Instead of telling Wiley where she is, Cassie sends cryptic clues. And instead of having Wiley come herself, Jasper shows up, saying Cassie sent him to help. Trusting the guy who sent Cassie off the rails doesn't feel right, but Wiley has no choice. She has to ignore her gut instinct and go with him. But figuring out where Cassie is goes from difficult to dangerous. In fact, as Wiley and Jasper head further and further north into the dense woods of Maine, Wiley struggles to control the growing sense that something is really wrong. What isn't Cassie telling them? And could finding her only be the beginning? Oh, it is the beginning of a book that is bonkers. So at first, I started out liking this book. I mean, it did follow a lot of like thriller cliches, it's like YA thriller cliches, but at the same time, it was so fast-paced and so just like driven that I was like, you know what, I can suspend my disbelief. I am on board. I did like our main characters of Wiley and the boy. I've forgotten his name already. I'm great at this. But Wiley has to go out looking for her friend, and she has to do it with the help of her friend's boyfriend, whom she doesn't like because she thinks he's a terrible influence. But they're gonna have to work together, and you know I love that kind of story where, you know, it's either enemies to friends or enemies to lovers. Spoilers, it's enemies to lovers. But you know I like that dynamic where two characters start out pretty much hating each other, and they have to have a goal and come together to solve it. So they're off looking for Cassie, her and this guy, and I actually liked it. I liked them, I liked their dynamic. The beginning had good mystery and tension. Where is Cassie? Why is she being so cryptic? Why won't she just tell them where she is? Because she keeps, like, every time they get to the next location on the way, she tells them where to go next. So it's very cool and, like, yes, okay, why wouldn't they call the police? Who knows, they're dumb, they're teenagers, but like, it was going, it was intense. Now, as I said, you do have to suspend a lot of disbelief, but I have found that many thrillers I have read require you to suspend disbelief. For a thriller to work, there has to be a lot of, why didn't he call the police? And how come no one heard the gunshots? So the fact that I was required to suspend disbelief in this book didn't really mess with my day too much. Now here's where things started to kind of come apart for me. Our main character supposedly has anxiety, and I have anxiety too, and she has social anxiety. Girl, same. So I was like, alright, this is gonna be good. Let's see if this is a representation of anxiety. Spoilers, it's not. At the beginning of the book, she hasn't left the house in weeks. And then the guy shows up and is like, we need to find Cassie. And she's like, alright, allow me to just get over that anxiety like this. Basically, anytime the character is going to have some anxiety, she just thinks about it and it's like, yep, I'm over it now, let's go. Her anxiety never hinders her, it never hampers her, and it never stops her from doing anything in the story. It's like it doesn't exist. It's almost like she's like, I'm extra special nervous about this thing. I guess I'll just do it. I'll overcome it. It's fine. The other thing is that it is kind of her superpower. Her anxiety makes her able to tell when a situation is going to go downhill. She just kind of gets that anxiety, spidey sense that things are going to go badly, and then that allows her to help avoid the bad situation or get out of the bad situation. And it's really annoying because that is not a helpful way to portray anxiety as like, it's a helpful superpower. Because those of us who have it are like, it's fucking not. And those people who don't have anxiety, it makes them wonder, well, why are all these people with anxiety complaining so much? It's basically a sixth sense. It's a superpower. What are they bitching about? Oh fam. Correct representation of mental health is important, and if you are going to claim that your character does have anxiety like this, then you can't go and make it into a superpower. If you're gonna call it anxiety, if you're gonna make it the actual mental illness, you kinda gotta represent the mental illness and not just make it, oh, this is so awesome, my anxiety always gets me out of trouble. Jasper was the boyfriend's name. Later on, he turned out to be a little too much of an angel for me, a little too much of a goody-goody. He was just, you know, the very best, the sweetest boy. He always did and said the right thing. He was always understanding. When our main character was mean to him, he always came back and was like, I'm sorry. He just was a little too perfect as time went on. He kind of starts out as sort of the misunderstood bad boy, but then you find out that he's so misunderstood that he's a fucking saint, and that just kind of destroys his character. And then, once they get to where they're going and they find Cassie and they're like trapped in this summer camp for some reason, it's never entirely clear like why is it a summer camp and why. They get trapped in this cabin for a while, and then they find out that like the guys who trapped them there aren't evil, they're trying to help them, or at least they think they're trying to help them. And it's like, well, why did you leave us in this cabin? It's very confusing. But after our characters find Cassie and they find out that she's kind of being checked out by this like secret society that's trying to figure out if she has superpowers, then Jasper goes missing. And our main character is concerned about him. Our main character, who is by this point in love with him because she's just kind of fallen for him over this time. And she's concerned for like 10 minutes. She's like, oh no, Jasper's gone? Oh well, I'm sure he just went home or something. He's fine. I'm like, okay, where was your superpower anxiety? Where's that? Because he's clearly not fine. He's just fucking disappeared. But okay. And then her anxiety, her plot-driven superpower anxiety conveniently stops working when she should be able to tell, like, some of these people who are trying to figure out if her and her friend have mental powers are in fact evil. But her anxiety is going to switch off for that part because, you know, we got to have the twisty surprise at the end. Speaking of which, this book tries to have so many twists, like bam, 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 twists, until it's just like, what are we doing? Are we doing the twist? Is the name of the dance the peppermint twist? Because settle down. Once our main characters get to this camp where the research is being done about their potential powers, it gets kind of boring. Like, once it settles down and you have a chance to think about what's going on, you're like, wait. This book is bonkers, and also now it's boring. And at this point I was like, I could stop reading, I'm really not into it anymore. But I was getting close to the end, so I'm like, okay, I will stick it out because I want to review this nonsense book. Now, at first, I was excited because it seemed like it was Cassie who had the mental powers, the super mental powers, that she was an outlier. Because, like I said, I'm going to spoil everything here, Wiley's dad was a scientist doing some research on people with, like, extrasensory abilities. And he had done a little experiment on his daughter and her friend because they, like, begged him. They were like, hey, can we please be hooked up to your machine to see if we're outliers, to see if we're... Mostly it was like to see if they were really emotionally tuned in, but secretly he was trying to find out if people have like extrasensory powers. And so they took the test, but then her dad switched their results to protect Wiley because, guess what? You're right. It turns out that she's the special after all. She's the one with the super awesome powers, not her friend Cassie. And, of course, for the extra big bucks, Wiley is like the most powerful one. Because why would a main character ever not be the most powerful one? That's stupid. Why waste a main character on them not being the very best? Except for, you know, it would be interesting if sometimes the main character wasn't the absolute best one. Like, I liked it when it was her friend. I liked it when our main character was having to deal with the fact that her friend was the special. And then it's just like, nope, surprise, you're the special after all. Here's your little crown. You're the best. Also, Wiley's cool new sort of telepathic powers do seem to be different from her anxiety powers. So it's kind of A, confusing, and B, still a bad portrayal of anxiety. Bad portrayal. Naughty. So I'm just not thrilled with how this book deals with mental health. If you're looking for a book that has any kind of good representation for anxiety, The Outliers is not it. And finally, every twist in this book, there were so many twists and they were all broadcast a mile away, and yet the main character continues to act surprised. And you're just, as the reader, you're just sitting here like, yeah, pay a little more attention, honey. Where are your superpowers when you need them? All of these twists are so obvious. So, overall, I thought The Outliers started out as a great bonkers thrill ride that didn't make a lot of sense, but fuck, I was on board for it, and then it turned into a really disappointing, bland story about a girl who turns out to be the chosen. The second half just came to a grinding halt with stupid twist after stupid twist, and then the main character turned out to be the special. The end. Yep. So I recommend the first half of this book if you're in the mood for something wild and weird, but I do not recommend the second half of this book. Just read up until where they find Cassie and then pretend that they saved the day. Anyway, did any of you read The Outliers? What did you think of it? Comment below and let me know. If you liked this review, there are loads of others on my channel. I've been doing this for a while. And I post brand new shiny videos Mondays and Fridays, so check those out. And you will find all the links to my social media down in the doobly-doo for ease of your clicking. If you liked what you saw here and wish it was higher quality, I have a Patreon for that. All the donations on Patreon go towards getting me better equipment, like my cool light that I'm still figuring out. And I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye! Well, look at that. It's shout-out time again. We're here to shout out this month's patrons with Lennox, Amanda, Ashley, Celia, Jenny, Kim, Lisa, Lumore, Sabby Panda, and Sarah. And if you want to be great like these awesome people, then you can become my patron over on Patreon.